Right now, on to the point. Tensions rising across the country after two shootings involving federal agents. Former FBI weighs in.
The fears on both sides are going to be amped up.
No new spending and no cuts. Governor Gavin Newsom laying out his budget for the next fiscal year. And investigators say Sac City Unified didn't give kids a fair shot at enrollment. Tonight, the settlement and a promise to fix it. Then we head to the back roads. We visit an industrial town that's now a unique tourist destination.
You are looking at Spokane's most favorite mascot.
Minneapolis and Portland, Oregon, two cities on edge this week after two separate shooting incidents involving federal agents. As always, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and we actually start in Portland, Oregon, where officials say a husband and wife were shot by a Customs and Border Protection agent. The Department of Homeland Security released the victims' photos, saying both were affiliated with the Tren de Agua in Venezuela and involving in a recent shooting. They say that the shooting happened during a targeted stop of a vehicle and say both are in the U.S. illegally. Today, Portland leaders reacting to the activity in their city.
It doesn't make our community safer. Harassment, targeting, violent enforcement, these actions, they destabilize our neighborhood.
In Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz called for a day of calm and unity as the memorial grows for shooting victim Renee Good. She was shot and killed Wednesday by a federal agent. Minnesota's Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says it has been cut off from the investigation into the shooting, leaving the FBI solely in charge of the case. Local prosecutors in Minnesota are now creating their own investigation, calling on members of the public to send them video or other evidence.
Our goal must be to ensure that a thorough investigation is completed at the local level so that our community can have transparency.
In a statement today, Renee Good's wife said that she was, quote, pure love, pure joy, and pure sunshine. Now, videos of the ICE agent shooting Renee Good in Minneapolis are not only raising emotions and tensions, they are also raising questions about whether the agent's actions were justified or followed policy. ABC 10's Becca Habegger joins us live in studio after taking questions to experts just today.
Hey, Alex, Brian Dugan is a retired assistant director of the FBI. I spoke with him and an immigration attorney about why what people are seeing right now feels so chaotic and violent.
As you've been following the news of the shootings in Minneapolis and Portland, what is sticking out to you?
I just think the operational tempo has really increased. I mean, there's this drive to get to numbers. ICE agents have doubled this year. We just have a lot more street activity than we normally do on the federal side.
Brian Dugan served 26 years in the FBI, retiring as an assistant director. He says while he can't speak to what, if any, different or updated policies agents might be following, he does think the accelerated push for immigration enforcement can lead to dangerous situations for officers and community members alike.
There's a lot more tactical operational activity on the streets, and that's going to lead to more and more potential bad outcomes. The fears on both sides are going to be amped up.
I asked him to comment on the video of an ICE officer shooting Renee Good in Minneapolis this week.
There is policy that said if the vehicle is not posing as a threat, then you're not to shoot at it. But if it is going to potentially harm somebody or it has already been used to harm people, then we have to eliminate the threat.
He says he can't know what was going through the agent's head that prompted him to shoot, and he awaits the outcome of an investigation.
Just as an American, I think it's pretty outrageous. I think it's excessive force.
Eric Welsh has a different opinion about the Minneapolis shooting. He is a partner at Reeves Immigration Law Group and spoke to me from the firm's Los Angeles office, where he says 2025 proved to be a turbulent year.
It seems to me to be, at least from the videos and the accounts that I've seen, appears to be ICE acting fairly recklessly and beyond the norm. There is something different about the tone, about the tenor, about the frequency, about the use of force that makes this very different from any time that I can recall in the 20 years that I've been practicing immigration law.
For people who are nervous about getting potentially detained, what advice could you possibly give them?
So First of all, what I want to remind everybody is that if you're in the United States, you have constitutional rights. Doesn't matter what your citizenship is. It doesn't matter where you were born or what your current status is. If you're here, if you're a person, the Constitution applies. And that includes your right to not to incriminate yourself, your right to have an attorney if there's a criminal process, if there is an arrest. So I do recommend that clients should exercise the right to remain silent. They should request the right to speak to an attorney if they're going to be interviewed. And they don't have to let anyone in the house without a warrant.
That immigration attorney says he has also seen an increasing number of his clients detained at their routine immigration check-ins. He says clients ranging from American citizens to those with temporary visas, people with no criminal records, he says, who came to the country legally, are afraid of losing their legal status and getting kicked out of the country. Alex.
All right, Becca, thank you. And we have been streaming coverage from Minneapolis throughout the week. You can watch more news conferences and updates on the ABC 10 app. All right, let's turn now to Governor Gavin Newsom, who unveiled his budget proposal for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The plan sets the tone for his last year in office and also how the state spends its money. So take a look at this. In simple terms, no new spending and no cuts. The total budget comes in at $348.9 billion. The big number everyone will notice. The governor is expecting a $2.9 billion deficit. That is far below the $18 billion shortfall that was predicted by the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office, the LAO. Keep in mind, there will be budget revisions in May, with the final budget deadline being June 15th. I want to go ahead and bring our political reporter in, Jenny. Jenny, thank you so much for being here. First question, talk to me about the significance of the budget. Were there any numbers to you that specifically stood out?
Two parts to the significance in that this is Governor Newsom's final budget proposal. This is his final term in office. And so a lot of people are eyeing what they view as a shadow presidential campaign, right? He's rumored to be running for president in 2028. And because a budget is often a statement of one's priorities, what he chooses to focus on here in his final term in office may very well shape kind of what he hopes to take in the national spotlight. Also significant is that he wasn't there today in person. It was the director of the Department of Finance that gave the presentation. So those are two things I noticed in terms of numbers that stood out, that $2.9 billion, in the budget deficit that the governor has anticipated compared to the $18 billion by the LAO.
Huge discrepancy.
Huge difference.
Huge difference.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, where is the state investing money? Talk a little bit about that. I think education was one of the top.
Education,
yeah.
right. Exactly. And we've heard a lot about affordability, right? So affordability, healthcare, housing, homelessness, that's all in the budget proposal as well. But education was top of mind for me because we are investing historic amounts per the governor. And that is because of Proposition 98, which voters voted in. Basically, if the state has a surplus in revenue, we are by law obligated to also invest more in Prop 98. And Prop 98 establishes a minimum essentially every year in how much the state puts towards public education. And so because the state had a surplus in revenue, we have to put more into Prop 98. And so automatically there is more funding for education, and why there is such a focus by the governor as well on education.
I know you can talk about this for a very long time, but I want to get to our last question here, because talk to me more about the federal versus the state funding regarding healthcare like Medicaid. This is huge for so many people.
Huge. And I think because it's huge is why it was so surprising that the governor didn't address it to the extent that people expected it to. So he does say, okay, because of those federal cuts, the state is having to make up for some of those administrative costs that the federal government will no longer fund. But he did not propose a contingency plan as to how people will be affected, and for the people that are affected, how the state will come in and help.
All right, Jenny, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We have a lot more news to get to. Stay with us. Coming up a little bit later in the show, a settlement between the state and the Sacramento Unified School District over enrollment policies tonight, how the district is responding. And how low will they go? Filling up at the gas pump is finally getting cheaper. A look at the best deals.
I'm tracking a couple of things. Much colder temperatures through the mornings. We're going to continue to be in those middle 30s, but we could also see the return of some Thule fog. Stick around. We'll talk some thermodynamics after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. President Donald Trump met with oil executives today, including those with Chevron, Shell, and ExxonMobil. He hopes to secure $100 billion in investments to revive Venezuela's oil industry. Since a U.S. military raid captured former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro on Saturday, Trump has said that there's a new opportunity to use the country's oil to keep gasoline prices low. Anti-government protests intensified across Iran today. Authorities responded by cutting internet and telephone lines in major Iranian cities, fueling fears of a brutal crackdown. Iran's supreme leader blamed destruction on protesters who were trying to please Trump. The unrest started nearly 2 weeks ago over economic conditions. And Switzerland held a national day of mourning today. A memorial service honored the 40 people killed in a bar fire during a New Year's celebration. Church bells across Switzerland rang for 5 minutes, followed by a minute of silence. And we are following breaking news tonight. Thousands of PG&E customers in Tuolumne County are without power right now. There was a lithium-ion battery explosion at a power plant in Chinese Camp. This map shows the outage area. The power is coming back on in some areas. We do have a crew headed to the scene. Make sure you stay with us for updates. But I do want to get things over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef, who is tracking the latest. I noticed that the sun was out, but man, it feels colder.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely chilly, right? I mean, we're already in the mid-40s across much of the valley. 47 in Sacramento, 45 in Elk Grove, 47 in Stockton, 49 down in Modesto, 21 in Truckee, 26 in South Lake Tahoe. Morning started off in the single digits up in the high country. As we go through the evening and into Saturday morning, it is going to be another cold start. We're going to start off in those low to middle 30s across the valley. Patchy fog and patchy frost, just like what we were talking about yesterday morning, or I suppose this morning. And that's going to continue through the weekend and into the start of next week, where we're going to have these temperatures in those mid 30s with the fog and frost opportunities. Again, single digits up in the high country to start Saturday morning. And once again, we've got a cold weather advisory for parts of the inland Bay Area, working our way further down. We also have an extreme cold warning for parts of the Diablo Range, mainly in San Benito County and inland Monterey County. Temperatures in those mid 20s to low 30s. Again, no 20s here in the valley, but we are going to be watching for those middle 30s through the weekend and Monday before we get back into the upper 30s, much closer to seasonal for the start of next week. So tomorrow afternoon, possible Tule fog, 53 in Sacramento, 53 Stockton, 53 in Modesto, 40s up in the high country. High pressure is building in. It'll really be overhead by the time we get to Sunday and Monday and through the first half of next week. This is going to bring some very stable air to Northern California as we go through the start of the week. I promised we'd talk a little thermodynamics. Here it is. This is called a model sounding. When we send the weather balloons up, this is the data we get back. Here's what Miami looks like this weekend. Air temperature is this red line here. You see how it cools as the air rises, right? Hot air rises, but that air cools off as it goes higher in the atmosphere. This allows the atmosphere to mix. This doesn't keep anything trapped at the surface. Here's the model sounding for Sacramento as we go through the weekend. Air temperature at the surface, but notice what happens. That air warms as it gets higher. This creates what we call a temperature inversion. It essentially acts as a lid on the lower atmosphere. So air gets stuck near the surface, and this is where that Tule fog can form. This is why when we talk about Tule fog, the valley can be under that blanket of gray, but you go up 1,000, 1,500 feet in elevation up into places like Auburn or Placerville, and you've got plenty of sunshine up there. That's because they're above that temperature inversion, and the atmosphere is acting like normal. That's your Thermodynamics 101. Tule fog possible as we go through the first half of next week. Temperatures climbing from those low 50s to low 60s by the end of next week. Alex?
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, a big win for California over a child care funding freeze, what this means for families tonight. And then on the back roads, we take you to one of the biggest urban waterfalls in the country and a city that turned pollution into pride. Welcome back in. A settlement was reached today between the California Attorney General and the Sacramento City Unified School District. The Attorney General's office says that the settlement addresses unlawful enrollment policies and practices that unfairly disadvantaged students of color, students with disabilities, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. The complaint and subsequent settlement are the result of an investigation by the State Department of Justice's Bureau of Children's Justice. The investigation looked into the district's enrollment, student transfer policies, practices, and procedures. The district responded today in a statement saying in part, quote, every student, regardless of background or ability or the neighborhood they are from, deserves access to the schools and programs that best serve the whole student. We are committed to doing the work that will continue to improve our enrollment processes for equity and accessibility. Now, you can read that entire statement from the district on our website over at abc10.com. Tonight, a federal judge granted a temporary restraining order on the Trump administration's freeze on child care funding. The administration announced a freeze on $10 billion in child care and family assistance funding after accusing 5 Democratic-led states of fraud. Those 5 states, including California, filed a joint lawsuit calling the freeze unconstitutional. Jumping into your price points tonight, the U.S. economy added about 50,000 jobs last month. That's the estimate released today by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It is down from the 64,000 jobs that were added in November. The number also falls short of the 55,000 new jobs economists were expecting. Analysts blame trade, immigration policy, inflation, and high interest rates. Let's talk about some gas prices. On average, they are the lowest since March of 2021. AAA says the national per gallon price is now $2.81. Meanwhile, Gas Buddy projects the lowest prices will be for drivers along the Gulf Coast and the South, below $3 a gallon. Prices above $3, though, in the forecast are, of course, us here in California, the Northeast, and Chicago. Coming up next, Bartell's Back Roads takes us to an incredible view. Well, you never know what you'll see on the back roads, and tonight John Bartell travels to eastern Washington to take a gondola ride over a waterfall.
You are looking at one of the largest urban waterfalls in the United States. Spokane Falls in Spokane, Washington. It's the centerpiece of the city, and its roar can be heard throughout Riverfront Park.
So last year we had 24,000 cubic feet per second, which is equivalent to filling an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 4 seconds.
And the best way to see the falls is on the historic Sky Ride.
The water is coming down the falls off the basalt rock, and the basalt is part of the formation, old lava flows from the Cascade Mountains, and this is part of the remnants of that. And when the Missoula floods came in, it carved all the sediment out and left this.
Park Director John Moog says the Sky Ride was built for the 1974 World's Fair Expo, which at the time had an environmentally focused theme. This was great for Spokane because the city was making some big environmental changes.
Back in the day, right before the fair, we had railroads going over our heads. So as tall as the trees are now, there was railroad trestles 6 deep, you could not see the river. So part of the environmental cleanup here was removing the railroads, restoring the land, restoring the river, and inviting people of the world to come and enjoy the renovations that we had to offer.
Spokane was a logging and railroad town, and the Spokane River had become heavily polluted because of it. But these historical pictures show how cleanup changed the city.
It was a really great thing to see because at the time you couldn't go in the river, you couldn't explore the river. We didn't have fish in the river because of all the pollution, but we cleaned it up, and now it's a beautiful park that we treasure as a community.
To help keep the city clean, Spokane enlisted the help of Garbage Goat.
What am I looking at now?
You are looking at Spokane's most favorite mascot.
I have seen a lot of mascots in my day, but I can honestly and affectionately say Garbage Goat sucks.
Push the button.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
All right, give it a shot.
Garbage Goat was sculpted out of recycled metal by Sister Pamela Turnbull, also known as the Welding Nun. She was a leading figure in the local art scene, but when the statue debuted in 1974, it attracted an unlikely source of controversy.
The dairy goat farmers came out and said, this is a misrepresentation of dairy goats. You should not be feeding dairy goats trash.
Luckily, Spokane was able to make amends with the dairy goat farmers, and Garbage Goat was allowed to stay.
It teaches sustainability and environmentally friendliness and just really care for the grounds of the park.
Riverfront Park has a number of other sculptures and landmarks to explore, including this giant red wagon, the Great Northern Clock Tower, the colorfully lit Giza Pavilion, and the beautifully restored 1909 Loof Carousel.
Loof is the builder and the carver of these horses, so it's a treasure for Spokane. It's one of our favorite things.
From a polluted industrial town to a clean tourist destination, today Spokane stands as a lasting symbol of environmentalism.
His Garbage Goat accidentally sucked up someone's glove or anything like that, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
We've gone digging for things, personal things before.
From Spokane, Washington, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. I hope you have a great and safe weekend. And don't forget, you can always download our free ABC 10 app straight to your TV. I'll see you on Monday.